Greetings, beloved Star Child Rising. You are in Christina's Corner, and I'm Christina. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast where I have the opportunity and the honor of celebrating and highlighting individuals who are out here leveraging their gifts and their talents to make a positive impact on the world. And today, we are honored to feature an extraordinary educator, leader, and fierce advocate for equity, LeRhonda Greats. With 25 years dedicated to independent and private schools, LeRhonda's journey has taken her from chairing computer science departments and advising student diversity clubs to serving as an assistant head of school for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Her deep commitment to fostering inclusive environments is rooted in a wealth of experience navigating the unique cultural landscapes of these institutions and advocating tirelessly for those often marginalized. LaRhonda's work gained particular prominence in the pivotal year of 2020 when the murder of George Floyd brought anti-Black racism into sharper focus, highlighting the urgent need for DEI initiatives in all sectors, including education. Her firsthand experience working within private schools during this charged climate has given her unparalleled insight into the added stresses and the rallying cry for self-care among educators. She is a staunch champion for Black women in independent schools, recognizing the often solitary path they navigate as they ascend to leadership roles. Facts. Beyond her remarkable career in education, LaRhonda is also a passionate voice for Black women over 50, using her YouTube channel to empower them to embrace their value, grieve, travel, achieve financial freedom, and cultivate supportive relationships without losing themselves. Her dedication to learning, teaching, and driving positive change is evident in every facet of her work. Please join me in welcoming a truly inspiring and transformative leader, LeRhonda Greats. Welcome, LeRhonda.
Thank you, Christina. Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Um, you're an important voice that we need to hear. So thank you for taking the time to be here. Appreciate it. So, LaRhonda, in the podcast, I always ask 6 questions. And I always
Mhm.
start off the same. The first one is always to ask you to take us back to your childhood. What were you like as a child? And did you have any clues growing up that you would be doing all that you do today?
Oof. Well, yes, I guess I did. I am one, my mother had 4 children, and I'm the only girl. So I've been advocating for my rights since the beginning. Making room, girl power. Being competitive with my brothers, anything they could do, I could do better. I could do anything better than them. I was, and also making room for classmates and my peers, and trying to be a leader. And when I was in high school, my I would say my sport in high school was junior ROTC. So I was a drill sergeant.
Okay.
They told me when I was 16 I should have been a drill sergeant. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
Okay. And where were you born and raised?
Detroit. Detroit.
Detroit.
Oh,
Okay.
yep, yep, yep. Thanks.
Okay.
Michigan is where you fly in when you fly into DTW. So my family is out in Inkster and in Detroit, on the north end of Detroit.
Okay. And so you had all those boys in your family. Were you the baby?
No,
Oh, you weren't the baby. Second to
second
none.
time.
Okay.
So, yeah, and we all have very unique personality, very strong, unique personalities. My mother raised us, and when I was probably midway through my 8th grade year, we left Detroit and moved to Lawton, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And so that's where that's in Army Town, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and where I stayed down there for about 10 years, where I met my husband and all that stuff.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
All right. Number two, as you transitioned from faculty member and diversity club advisor to a high level administrative role in DEI, what were the most profound shifts in your understanding of how change happens within independent school ecosystems? And can you pinpoint a moment where your perspective on leveraging influence for DEI truly crystallized as you gained more leadership opportunity?
Well, I started actually, I came into independent school as an intern working in the computer lab when I was finishing my degree. And so I got to see, again, from an intern all the way up to being assistant head of school. And as I worked at one school for 16 years and I was like, experienced all kinds of things. I ran their summer program and ran dorms and I could see that uh, a lot of the decisions were made in rooms. The higher up I was able to climb, the more exposure I got to the real decision makers, trustees, sitting in on board meetings and those types of things where I could think when I was a department chair and we were sitting on the curriculum committee that we were making decisions, but if that decision didn't quite go through, I always knew that there was something else going on, something else in, as you said, an ecosystem that I wasn't aware of. But as I climbed the ladder, and sat in those rooms, I was like, okay, I got it. You know, whether it's the whole academic committee sitting in on admissions, in the admissions and advancement meetings and those types of things. It takes all of those departments to make that engine that is the school run. And probably, as you mentioned already, when Floyd was murdered in 2020, I thought I'd experienced a lot because I was in schools when 9/11 happened, and I was in New Jersey at that time when the Twin Towers blew up. But when George Floyd was murdered, and couple that partnered that with the COVID-19 virus and the shutdown, that's something that I think as a world, I think we are going to have PTSD around that for a long time to come because
Mm-hmm.
we were trying to do all the things and support while the world and the country, and at that time I was in California, we were experiencing kind of so much anti-Blackness and racial unrest, and all the while being at home and the conflicts of having parents basically looking over their kids' shoulders, you know, and seeing what was going on, and then accusing schools of indoctrinating their kids, and you know, their black ad pages popping up on Instagram, so much social media that happened. And as the leadership, we're trying to keep the school open. You know, we're applying for PPP loans and trying to make sure that the people who work at the school can feed their families. And there were so many challenges that were coming at us at the same time. And as I said, I was on that level of the senior admin team, sitting in meetings when decisions had to be made. How are we going to make sure that the education and the quality of education that we were offering stayed consistent while, for example, having two educators who were married to one another, so they lived in their house, and then their kids, they had kids as well who had to have classes, so they had to teach their classes while the kids had to go to school, and their house might not be big enough for all of that action to be going on, and we couldn't bring the kids to campus. So that's probably the hardest time I can remember experiencing in my career.
Okay, thank you. Number three, um, So, LaRhonda, as you know, we connected years ago, navigating, as I said earlier, similar paths as equity leaders in predominantly white independent schools while raising our daughters. Given your powerful advocacy for Black women in these spaces, what often remains unseen or unspoken about the unique pressures they face, not just in securing, but truly sustaining leadership positions? And from your vantage point, what revolutionary strategies or unconventional support systems are truly crucial for not just their success, but their holistic well being and longevity?
It's a lonely place. It's a lonely place. And the higher up the ladder you climb, you know, there's rare air up there. You can't talk to, when you're a classroom teacher, you have other classroom teachers you can talk to. When you climb up into the administrative space, there's no one to talk to. So when I think about what I thought about this question, and I think that what I would love to see happen is that these women, men too, are given an opportunity to have some type of coach, somebody that they can talk to about their experience in the school, someone that knows something about independent schools. Um, I know that heads of schools, if there's a new head of school, they get a coach. They get another head that they can partner with who is kind of like a mentor for them. And I think that as people of color, as Black women working in these schools, if we could, there are a lot of us out here who are experienced and it would be great to have a place where we could go. We had, you know, we did have the conference, the one conference, the People of Color conference that we got to attend. Some of us got to attend pretty consistently, but not everyone. And if you're an educator working in these spaces and you're lonely, you don't have anywhere to turn. I think that that's where the sustainability and the retention is falling off. Because no one wants to you can, if you don't create, we created affinity spaces for students. It would be nice to have affinity spaces for the adults as well.
Mm-hmm. I was in a school where we were able to have some affinity spaces for adults, which meant everything to me. But still in those spaces, there's a difference between um, being a faculty member and being an administrator. Beyond your professional career, you've created a YouTube channel to support Black women over 50, encouraging them to find value and merit in their lives. How does your personal passion for empowering the demographic intersect with your professional advocacy for equity and inclusion? And what common threads do you see in the challenges and triumphs faced by both groups?
And this idea came to me as I was attending that conference that I went to that conference for 20 years total. So by year 12 or 13, I was walking around the conference going, I need to be in spaces with people my age because their education is a young man's game. There are a lot of young people coming into education. And I was walking around with an equity lens, with my professional lens, thinking, but what about people who have been in the game 10 or 15 years? And then, my kids had graduated, my kids were off living their lives, and it's just me. And I'm thinking, I would love to. One time that conference had, we met on a Saturday morning with just the Black women and the girls, the Black female students in an affinity space. I don't think I'd ever been as happy. Because again, I grew up in a house full of boys and things like that. And I was like, whoa, we're in a space with Black women educators who understand this game. I want more of that. And so that's where my passion for my YouTube channel came about. And I call it Black Women Over 50, Our Lives Matter Too, as a play on the Black Lives Matter slogan, because up until I got into this age range, this era, a Black woman was just, we're either just caretakers, we're the mules. We're out here just doing. I'm going to take care, even when I would go to conferences or whatever. I've been in a workshop where they needed a facilitator. And because I was the OG in the room, they chose me. And I was like, but I came here to learn too. What do you mean? I paid to come to the conference. However, I don't mind facilitating. I don't mind helping, but it's always, and I've gotten myself in trouble personally when I've said, why am I always expected to just have the big pot on the stove and the ladle feeding everybody in the neighborhood? What if I want to, learn how to do the latest line dance or sit at the beach or whatever? Are there other options for me as I get older? And I figured there must be, because I want to do it. So I started when I turned 50. I went to South Africa and I did a tandem skydive. For like, I was like, listen, think about it. If I die, what a great story my kids have. What was your mother doing? She was 50 and she jumped out of a plane. And so my son has since labeled me an adrenaline junkie, which I don't agree with that. I just I'm not my grandmother's grandma. I am a grandmother. I have a 5-year-old grandson, and I've still got a lot of life in me. And I know a lot of Black women over 50 who have a lot of life in them, and they may be lonely and want to do some things. And so I feel that we have a right to, and I want to make space, as I did in my career. I was making space for people. I was building community, and to be in that space with us is fantastic.
And are they expressing their gratitude for you coming up with this idea? That's
I
good.
have my YouTube channel. I just kind of talk like you and I are having this conversation, but I'm having a conversation just with my camera. But I have another group called the Black Queens for Black women over 50. And yeah, we meet twice a month on Zoom. And yeah, those who show up are just, we have a good time. We have
It's
a good
great.
time. We talk about all kinds of things. We talk about our money. We talk about Social Security. We talk about adult children. Um, how do we cut them loose? Talk about being caregivers of our parents, right? So many things. And, again, oftentimes when I first started the Black Queens, people were saying, well, but you could be a great mentor to a younger blah, blah, blah. I'm like, and I could find some great mentors. I would love, I love to speak to people who are older than I am, Black women. And Dennis Kimbrough wrote a book, and I'm going to get us as the Black Queens to kind of make our own type of collection of stories. What lessons have we learned as Black women over 50 who worked in education, who worked in private school education? We've got stories to tell. It's
Mm-hmm.
not it's not bad, right? Like we have all come a mighty long way, but we've not been free that long.
Mm-hmm.
I came in independent schools in 1998. I know some who came in the 70s, and I we should record those stories.
That's fascinating. I'm gonna have to drop in,
Yeah, I'm
because
gonna
I'm
send you
over
that.
50 and I got some stories too.
There you go. There you go. You're more than welcome. And we're actually have a meeting this Saturday. So I'll send you an invitation.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. Final question. So, having spent decades as a change agent in education and now offering your services as a consultant and thought partner, what continues to fuel your dedication to this demanding work? And how do you prioritize self care besides jumping off of planes?
You know, when I turned 59, I went and got my physical, and they told me I was type 2 diabetic. And I was mad and I was embarrassed because I thought I had been taking care of myself. And then I talked to the doctor, and sadly, it was because it was during COVID. And so they weren't I found out through an email. They were like, go to the pharmacy and pick up your prescriptions for your diabetes. I'm like, y'all must have me confused with someone else because I don't have diabetes. Oh, yeah, your numbers. What are my numbers? I don't understand that. So that fueled my passion for taking better care of myself. One of the things we learn in the DEI space is to center X, right? We're centering the students. We're here for the kids. If you're in an affinity space, you center that. I center LeRhonda. And I had to unlearn. I've done a lot of mindset work around I am no better than anyone else, but I am just as good as everyone else. I am worthy of taking care of myself. And so self care is at the forefront every day I wake up. I walk like uh, 15,000 steps today. So I'm at about 6 miles every day from 6 to 8.
Wow.
I get my walk.
Wow. I'm inspired. Congratulations.
Thank you. And, when I was on the West Coast, it was easier to do because I didn't have to deal with the elements. So being
Hmm.
back here on the East Coast has been a challenge. However, um, I started walking in '07 when my son was a senior in high school. He was graduating. And I had convinced myself that the stress was going to kill me. I literally, I'm going to have a heart attack. I had a lot more weight on me. And that's when I started walking. And I was in New Jersey at the time, and I would walk in the snow. I'm like, girl, put your gear on and get out there. And so now I try my best to rain or shine, get out and do that. So that's number one. Drink lots of water. I control my diabetes through diet and exercise. I'm not on, the medications that they want to put you on. And I have a passion for encouraging other women to not just accept the status quo. Because we all know, those of us have done this work, know that we have a history in this country, especially, of them not really taking good care of us. So we have to take good care of ourselves. We have to work together collaboratively. Um, I'd love to build a community. I think of my Black queens. I'd love for us to be like the Golden Girls, because as we get older and our kids may not be there for us or whatever, we may not have kids. Everyone doesn't have children,
Hmm.
and it would be lovely to have just a community of us that I can be like, Christina, I need to go to the doctor. Are you going to the grocery store? And it's kind of a throwback to the way I grew up. I just knew that somebody was going to go do something and we were going to help one another. And I pray that before I leave this earth, what I would like to do is build something like that. I don't know. I at one point I was moving to Ghana and I was going to do it over there. I've done some investing over there. But so many people don't want to travel, whatever. Um, and I've seen some folks doing some things in Georgia and that kind of thing. But love for us to have some land that we can just have some peace, man. This is
Mm-hmm.
peace.
Mm-hmm.
So centering yourself, put yourself in the middle. That doesn't make you selfish at all.
Okay.
You taking care of yourself is and I'm gonna butcher it. They always, they'll quote Audre Lorde or whomever, um, and the nap ministry. I take naps. When I'm tired, I lay down. If I don't feel like cooking, I don't. I,
Mm-hmm.
it's,
Mm-hmm.
and the world doesn't stop spinning because I had to realize because I was truly an overachiever, the world won't stop spinning if I slow down. And when you're over 50, you should slow down. Take a nap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you're tired, you're tired. So, what do you do for fun? So, I imagine if you've been walking this many years, that's fun for you now. Um, and then I know that from watching you on social media, you travel, right? What other things do you do for fun?
Man, I love a good concert.
Okay.
Let us see. I've just gotten into Let Us See, and I think it's ironic that when she first came out, I was Angie Stone was cool, and I thought, well, Let Us See is just Angie Stone. That's what's the problem, and may Angie rest in peace. And I've been listening to Let Us See, and Let Us See is doing the thing, and so she's on tour now, and next week she's gonna be near me, and I say near me, it could be 3 hours, 4 hours away. I'll hop in my car and go. So
Right,
I'm
right,
doing. I love
right.
a concert. New Edition. I've seen them 150 times. I think I finally said I think I've seen New Edition enough, but I love a concert. I love just a show. I'm glad to the other thing about being back on the East Coast. I can't wait to get up to New York City and go to a play, a musical. My daughter and I love, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton, Wicked, all the things.
Mm-hmm. Is your daughter near you now?
Not now. Now
No?
she's in Oakland,
Okay.
California.
Wow.
But
Okay.
I used to always say to them, I'm like, what I need y'all to do is grow up and give me a place to visit. So
Right.
me leaving and coming to the East Coast because I left my son by himself for 10 or 15 years. I think I was so far away from him. And now, you know, give him, I can get on his nerves a little bit and I can go visit my daughter anytime I want to. And
Okay.
places the airport. I love to be in the airport going somewhere.
Okay. I love that too, but I'm not at that stage yet. I said that we were kind of like on parallel tracks, but my daughter lives with me and I don't want her to go nowhere. I know she is. I know she is, but I don't want her to go nowhere. I want to have her right here with me, but I guess at a certain point I'd be like, when you going? When you going?
My mother wasn't. My mother told me when she was, when she got older, she wished that we had always just stayed with her.
Hmm.
I, I'm just cut from a different. We did diverge, you and
Yeah.
I. I want my kids to, I want to give them their wings,
Hmm.
allow them to my daughter and I are so much alike. It's in a lot of ways, but she's different than me.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
iron my clothes. I iron my clothes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't iron them in honor of her, but
Well, I really, really, really enjoyed this conversation. I know we got sidetracked a little bit. It went a little longer, but it was all good. And it just gave me so many ideas um, of what we can talk about next time. And I hope there's going to be a next time
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
can continue this conversation because there are so many different branches we can go that I'd like to explore with you. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and for the listeners. We'll see you on the next episode of Christina's Corner. Have a great night.
Good job. Good job.